Hey, welcome to Grafted, everybody.
We just got out of the movie theater.
For 3.5 hours.
That's right. So you probably, if you look closely, you can tell we've been crying.
They're tears.
Per the usual. So we watched all 3 episodes of The Chosen.
Season 4.
It's
live.
And wow, we just want to give you our initial reaction. Yeah. And so we're going to give a full reaction once they release them on video, but we wanted to jump in now as it's fresh.
But make sure you subscribe, like, put it on your watch list, click the noties so you know when our reactions come out.
That's right. We're going to do another one of these in 2 weeks when the next 3 episodes come out, and then in 4 weeks we'll do the last 2 episodes. So let's jump right in.
Let's go.
Sam,
Let's go.
What was one of your favorite parts of the film?
Oh, in case you're joining us right now live, we will have some spoilers.
Oh, yes. Spoiler alert. So we will be talking about it.
If you don't want anything spoiled, then put this on your watch list and watch it later.
That's right.
Because, we're just going to go for it.
Yeah.
So here we go. You said my favorite part?
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite parts have to be
parts.
Well, it's a thread. It's a thread
true.
throughout the first episode, you guys know I love John the Baptist. I love the character in The Chosen. I also love the character in the Bible. But they presented his mom and dad, Zechariah and Elizabeth, in such a beautiful way.
I love that part.
It was so good.
It was.
I think they opened episode 1 with that. And I was just kind of blown away by the whole presentation. Right. I thought it was wonderfully biblical, and it was also just really fun to see.
It was.
And one of the things that we talked about over dinner was that we got to see an old woman pregnant.
What did you think about that?
I mean, that's like
it was weird.
It's weird,
but cool.
But you don't see that.
Yeah.
Like we don't see that, and that's something that is actually a biblical reality throughout the text. Right.
And so, the Bible's all about miracle conceptions and miracle births. But it was fun to have a visual for that.
So fun.
I guess I don't know why I've never really pictured. I mean, I've always like, oh wow, they're old. That's cool.
Yeah.
But seeing a 70-something-year-old woman with a belly was amazing.
It's cool because one, they also had the same actor to play Mary, Jesus' mother. From the Christmas episodes that they did, right? So she shows up at the door. She's knocking on the door, and the baby leaps in her room, right? Cool. And you're like, oh, it's so fun to see that stuff. So then they had that throughout the episode, and I mean, obviously, you guys know I was looking forward and not looking forward to this episode because John the Baptist gets martyred, and it was super hard. But the way they wove his birth and his bris and the naming of him and everything was just beautiful. Beautifully done.
Yeah, I feel like if they just would have done John's martyrdom, it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, you're right.
Since they were doing that flashback to his dedication.
Oh, man.
And with his father giving that amazing prayer and blessing just straight from the scripture, right?
So good.
And so I feel like that, you're like, oh no, he was born for a purpose.
Yeah.
And they did a good job, I feel like, of saying he was born to prepare the way of the Lord.
Yes.
And that's what he did.
And that's in mission accomplished, right?
He became who God created him to be.
Right.
And it was hard and it was difficult.
Man.
I mean, because they didn't talk about this, but of course in scripture, they send him away.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine your 70-year-old woman and then you send your child away because he's set apart and sanctified and goes and most likely lives with in Qumran or some Essene type of wilderness sect, Like, really? That would be so hard, It's like Hannah, reminds me of Hannah, as I said that too.
Totally.
Another miracle birth, and then, all right, go.
Set apart.
You're gone.
Yep. In the service of the Lord. Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I think they just did a fantastic job with that little storyline woven throughout the first episode. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening in all the episodes.
Yeah.
But that was really, really beautifully done.
Wow, and that, it was. that whole John and Herod was so evil, and
golly, guys, like
the dancing was creepy.
Yeah, if you saw that, I mean, give me a break. Like that was gross. It was gross.
Yeah, that's a hard.
Now, reality is that it was probably grosser.
Right. Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to talk about that,
Right.
but they. I mean, somehow they captured the essence of gross.
Yeah.
And even the way she was dancing, Salome was dancing, was just creepy. Her mother's kind of manipulative, maniacal.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
she's super evil.
Grossness and
they did a good job portraying her as mad about John calling them out on their sin.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's getting back at him. That's, I mean, the text doesn't say that, but that's...
You can see it.
Highly likely, I would probably say, you know.
And again, not an extra biblical part of the story that was really beautifully done was when John's being escorted out of prison. Joanna, I believe, is her name, is kind of like hollering at him, and he turns around and says this quote that Jesus says when John's disciples come and say, like, Are you the one?
Are you the Messiah?
And Jesus is like, the lame walk, the blind see, this passage from Isaiah. And he quotes that to her. And it's just like, whoo. Yeah. It's just powerful. It's like he was like rock steady to the end. And just, set on the way.
Yeah, I liked it.
And so that was, to me, that was artistic. That was beautiful.
Right.
Extra biblical on that part, but...
Well, but yeah, we know that he at least had that encounter while he was in prison,
right.
at least.
Right, exactly.
But you're right, the Joanna part was extra biblical, but I didn't necessarily love his like last line or something. I don't know. I felt like it was, I can't remember what he said, it was something like...
You wouldn't understand or something like that. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it.
I feel like John would be more like, repent, the kingdom of heaven. Do you have any last words? Repent.
Yeah, that, I mean, to me, that would have been more believable.
Right.
Of, this radical, John.
I would have been cool.
Yeah.
But it was still good. It's still, I still cried,
For sure.
So
definitely had some tears shed at that part, but man, they did do a good job of honoring John as the preparer, the one that prepared the way. And they said it explicitly. So.
Yeah, and don't worry, I think Sam will cry again when we do a full reaction.
You think so? Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Just wait and see.
It's so sad.
We've already seen it, and yet when we do our full reaction, we'll definitely shed tears again. So, okay, Tom, what was your highlight? What was your favorite part?
Yes. So the next episode really was a lot of it was about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it crescendos, if you will, with Peter forgiving Matthew. And it's funny because one of my highlights here is that it's all extra biblical. Yeah. I'd say it's very plausible, but it's like it's so powerful when you see forgiveness.
It really is.
And I love it because they also bring in this whole scene at Caesarea Philippi, right? Where Yeshua's like, who do you say that I am? And, you're this prophet, you're Jeremiah, you're all these people. And then, Peter says, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And then, of course, it is kind of a funny part, too. They, make this big deal that Yeshua renames him Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, my ecclesia, right?
Yeah.
So,
which was a funny thread with the Peter Simon getting used to this name change thing.
Yeah, they made a big deal about that. That was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, it was
like
good.
Peter Simon, Simon like Peter, actually.
Peter. He had to wear a name tag for a little while,
Side note, I did notice that this is a funny side note that sometimes when it was focused on Peter, that the screen. My eyes still went to his bicep.
His bulging shoulder and tricep.
And I don't think it was because I'm a arms guy.
No?
No, I mean, look at me.
You're a big arms guy?
I think it's because the camera was somehow trying to get you to look at it. I could be wrong.
I noted that in a couple scenes, they're pretending like it's cold, and yet Peter's not wearing any pants or long sleeve shirt.
He's wearing pants. They're short, but I'm such not an arms guy. I figured something out to all you skinny guys out there. I'll give you a little
quick tip
here.
Life tip.
Quick tip. And that is that, usually when people flex, you kind of go like this. Yeah. It's like the traditional way you flex. Who made that up, right? I mean, who decides that's the way you flex? Because then all the attention goes right to the muscle.
The Romans.
The Romans.
Or also called the Bromans.
Is it? No.
That's a joke.
So my idea years ago, this was back when I was young, was that if you do what I call the open-fisted flex.
Show us, Tom.
And a big grin. Like that.
Oh.
The big grin and the open fist, they actually take distraction away from how small your water pistols are.
Water pistols.
So
Nicely
just
done.
a little tip, any skinny guys out there, go with the open-fisted flex.
If you're on the beach and you're like, flex contest, you just go, ha! And then everyone just thinks you're the funny guy and they all like you. Okay.
No, but back to the...
Back to the what?
The Peter and the Matthew
yes.
forgiveness part. I loved it because, Yeshua says, you are this rock. You are Peter, right? Mm-hmm. But there's this certain element of, well, it's really not just Peter, but all of us, right? Where the Lord sees us for who we really are.
Yeah.
Or maybe say it differently. He sees us for who we're really created to be. Mm-hmm. Our intended destiny in him. And I think in that moment, they do a good job of showing that Simon's not Peter yet. He's not this rock. And that's kind of how it's a little extra biblical, but I think there's a great depiction there.
Totally.
Because then right after that, Matthew comes to him and he repents. Mm-hmm. And he asks him to forgive him.
Yeah.
And then Peter's wrestling, right?
He is, yeah.
But then he comes back, and that's the cry moment.
That's the tearjerker moment,
right
there,
and it's like, but he's becoming the rock. Mm-hmm. And I loved that because it's Yeshua's like, I see who you're going to become, Peter. And that's how it is for us,
exactly.
And so I thought that one was a moment.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, Jesus sees who he's designed us to be, and he calls us into it.
Yeah.
Before we even realize what it is. And when we were talking a little bit earlier, briefing before we were getting ready to go, we noticed too that like Jesus is teaching about forgiveness in the Sermon on the Mount. It's in Matthew, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's saying that if your brother has something against you, leave your gift at the altar and go be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. And so, they're receiving this teaching all along, and they're having to put it into practice. They're disciples.
Right.
So they're being discipled.
That's good.
And that is another highlight for me, too, is that they depicted discipleship on the way throughout this episode. Throughout these episodes. Lots of walking, lots of on the road, let's work this out. Some extra biblical, some, but that was the reality of Jesus' ministry, is that they were on the road a lot. And on the road meant walking on the road a lot.
Right.
And
especially going up to Caesarea Philippi, which is like way further north.
Long walk.
I did like visually how they do Caesarea Philippi. I do think it could have been a little creepier.
Well, we were talking about that. We felt like the preview for that scene
was creepier.
The whatever the episode behind the scenes thing they did was creepier than the actual episode. Right. But whatever.
But and they were also being kind of funny in the behind the scenes thing, and they couldn't do that for the episode. But I do love that they show that, and that's that whole depiction of Peter and on this rock I will build my church. I mean, come on, that's pretty fun.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at. Want to do a quick plug real quick? Let's do a quick plug real quick. We want you guys to become Grafted ambassadors.
That's right.
And when you do, look at this. Look at this guy.
That's right.
Brand new
lids
coming at you. Heavy G right here. The Grafted G. Become an ambassador. Get a cap.
That's right. If you become a $25 a month or more donor, you get one of these lids.
You can wear it front
or
back.
You can join us once a month on our live gathering as well, where we answer questions and tell you everything that's going on behind the scenes with Grafted and Sam's goats and chickens.
Singular.
And and much more. Also, you get our free course, Introduction to a Biblical Messianic Worldview. So become a Grafted ambassador. And thank you guys so much who already are supporting us.
Yeah, those are the ones that are already supporting
Couldn't
us.
do it
Are
without
like,
you.
woohoo!
Yeah.
They're in. They
Finally,
are.
it's only
They're
taken
here.
a year and a half or something like that.
That was a quick plug.
So
What else are we talking about, Tom?
Also, some funny parts
Okay.
of the film. And stick around, we're going to talk about, there is like the controversial scene at the end. We'll get there in just a minute, but a few funny parts.
Funny parts.
More funny parts.
What was... So
Always eating Atticus.
he's always eating.
What?
He's the Brad Pitt of The Chosen.
I don't think you've ever said that.
Okay.
I like
No?
that.
Yeah.
He's the Brad Pitt of The Chosen.
Brad Pitt's...
Check
He's
this
eating
out.
in every episode.
I'm pouring this coffee into here. That doesn't even make any
Do you
sense.
mean to pour this coffee in
This
here?
shows you that we were genuinely went like straight from the movie theater to dinner to the live stream. It is 3.5 hours is a long time.
And we don't typically go to the theater.
No, we don't.
So
Anyway, always eating Atticus. He has this moment, maybe two moments, but at least one for sure, where he speaks Spanish.
it
like,
sure looks,
like,
sure sounds like it does.
If you know Italian,
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat because he says tu comprende
That's
or
what it
tu
sounded like to me.
comprendes or something like that. Like, do you understand? Right?
You understand?
Is that the same in Italian? I'm like, did he just speak Spanish?
Eh,
Like,
That's what we thought. We looked at each other and we're like,
what?
had to be Italian, right?
¿Qué es esto? I'm like, seriously?
Right.
But so maybe it's Italian and it's so they're, and I don't know old school Italian. I'm sure like Italian today is not the same as it was in the first century.
I don't know any Italian, so
My Latin's not so good either, but I don't think that was Latin.
I don't think so.
But that was hilarious. I didn't see that coming.
Another funny part was James and John's mom getting excited. She really wants her boys to have some recognition. It was uncomfortable funny.
Yeah, I didn't think it was funny. It was like, because it was all about leaders and trying to get the attention.
It was, it was.
Ooh.
It was funny. I thought I wrote another one down.
The funny part, though, that they did with James and John, they were saying, like, they were telling their mom the story. And he's like, about when Peter says, you're the Messiah, the Son of the living God. He's like, we all knew the answer to the question of who do you say that I am, but we just thought it was rhetorical or something like that.
Right. He just happened to say it first. Right. No, that was around the campfire. Yeah. But that was probably, to me, that was the funny highlight.
That was funny. Like, we all knew that. Like, I could have been the Rock.
That was funny.
So, which I always said that did happen, but then they do fight for. So you kind of see maybe, and it is interesting though how you have the 12 and the 3,
Mm-hmm. You do.
But they're kind of depicting Peter as the one, and I don't know about that. Like,
right.
John's also like the one that lays on him.
He's the beloved disciple. Yeah.
So
But there's definitely the 3.
There's definitely
Peter, James,
the 3.
and John are definitely the 3,
and some of the other 9, if you will, they're kind of feeling a little bit like, hey, are we chopped liver or
And throughout the Gospels, here and there's these arguments that ensue about who's the greatest, and up to the table, up to the Last Supper, when they're doing this Passover Seder, they're having this conversation about who's the greatest, who's the greatest, and you're like, guys, stop it, not right now.
Wrong
especially.
question. There are bad questions. That is a bad question.
So those are probably our funny.
No, there's another one. They're gonna have another one now.
Well.
Oh yeah, there's one more.
Oh, okay.
This is and maybe it's not funny for everybody, but it's funny for me because the extra biblical part also is where Thomas and Rama they have this like courtship.
Yes.
And then Yeshua's like, well, do you have a gift a dowry or I don't know, like type of a thing?
The betrothal gift.
And he's like, oh, we just decided that, we're just in love and we don't need gifts.
Love is the greatest gift that you could give me anyway. False.
And so then then Peter, who's the only married one in the group, he's like, whoa.
He's like,
time out. And he pulls Thomas aside and he's like, hey,
let me tell you.
Just so you know, when a woman says,
I don't need a gift.
I don't need a gift, that does not mean I don't need a gift. That means you do need to get a gift.
Yeah. That was good. That was classic.
Maybe that's sexist. I don't know. But I will say that at least in my marriage doesn't apply to everybody. I get it. But I learned that one early on in my marriage as well.
I think we're 3 for 3 in this room.
So to all those young married or like guys out there who are engaged,
go ahead and go for the gift.
Counsel is if you're even dating and she's like, oh, it's no big deal. Get her one anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not that she secretly means you need to. That's not what it is. It's more like she would really love it if you did.
And my wife is watching going, mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Still an active disciple.
Man, I still struggle with the gifting. 20 years in.
Let's move on.
We have this code. I'll just bring you side note here. We're not editing. This is live stream. Sam and I have this code where if he's buying his wife flowers, he's supposed to text me and say, hey, you should get your wife flowers.
We should probably pick that back up again.
Right.
We haven't done that in a while.
But don't tell your wife that the other guy texted you to remind you.
Tom texted me and told me I need to get you some flowers.
It's just like, oh my goodness, you just thought of me,
I think I've done it, and I was like, oh yeah, I got my wife flowers the other day, and Tom's like, and you didn't tell me? Oh, sorry, bro.
Well, I'm fine because Leah isn't going to watch this until it comes out on video probably, so I'm good for a couple months.
Couple months, you're good.
But your wife, I think, is watching.
She's watching right now. She's live. Hey, baby.
All right, let's jump into the last big controversial scene. But before we do that, just a reminder, we are going to Israel on a going as long as United Airlines will fly us there. We have about 30 some people. You can still sign up to go. Go to our website.
Sign up to go.
You must sign up to go. That's true, and you have to pay. Grafted.family/tours. You can find out all the information and sign up.
Link down there.
So come on our tour. It's a special time to go to Israel. It's a sensitive time to go. So many tours aren't going. It's a really good time to go. Bless the Jewish people. Let them know that we support them. We're standing with them in the midst of this actually multi-front war that they're facing right now. So come on this very unique and special tour. Looking forward to it.
All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Spoiler alert, big
Spoiler.
time. So there's this scene at the end,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll talk about this more when we do a reaction. But there's a healing, which is really great.
Yeah.
Some parts of it, we'll talk about it. We'll kind of unpack it a
They're
little
kind of
bit.
look. The Chosen has a difficult job because they're bringing in different stories from the gospel. They can't tell every story,
Right.
so they're kind of bringing in Matthew 23, and they're bringing in John
9-ish or something.
Yeah, I think so. And then so go on, Sam.
Anyway, a riot ensues. There's a lot of controversy happening. It's yelling. It's going crazy. The Romans get involved, and Rama gets killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So she gets stabbed
By Quintus,
which
is just it's a kind of chaos.
It's total chaos.
Yeah.
It looks like it was an accident.
Right.
And it's completely extra biblical.
It is totally. But but Gaius, like something's going on with Gaius.
He's turning to the Lord.
He's turning to the Lord and away from the Romans, which is awesome.
And so, but here's the thing. Tom and I guess I won't totally speak for you.
Rama gets
She gets run through.
Like, whoa, did you see that coming?
No.
I absolutely did. I was like, whoa.
Didn't see it coming. I haven't been a huge fan of the whole Raymond Thomas romance thing anyway.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite thing. So if we're going to say what's not your favorite thing, that's probably not my favorite thing. But then they add this in, and I'm kind of like, mean,
But you see what they're doing, right?
I see what they're doing.
What are they doing, Sam?
They're setting us up, I think, this is my theory, they're setting us up for post-resurrection when Jesus comes in and Thomas is believe it. I got to see him. I got to put unless I touch him, I'm not going to believe it.
Because he's seen death and didn't see resurrection.
So we're seeing a setup here.
Right.
So I see why they're doing it. I don't particularly care for it.
Yeah.
Honest opinion.
Right.
That's my honest opinion. So take it or leave it, you know. But I mean, what do you feel? What are you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite extra biblical one was the forgiveness.
Yes.
You know, Peter and Matthew.
Which seems really plausible anyway.
Yeah, because he's a tax collector.
Right.
And I mean, they would have had to deal with that for sure.
Major stuff going on, right?
So yeah, it's not my favorite. I think that I think it's a challenge to, it brings in that, did Yeshua heal everyone he encountered?
So we're back at that.
We're kind of back to that controversy. Like,
so I'm sure there's going to be an upset about that for sure.
So he doesn't heal Rhema.
Right.
And he's like, it's done. It's not her.
Unless they like pull a resurrection card, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's going to happen.
So that's controversial because there are no depictions of Yeshua in the Gospels where he doesn't heal anyone.
Right.
And so, but obviously, The Chosen is not the Bible. And we could just say that again, you know. I mean, they're not pretending
to be.
all
the time.
They have to add, just once you put it on screen. Now, they didn't have to add this whole part. They've taken liberties to make the story maybe more natural, or I don't know how you would describe that. Whatever, that's what they decided to do, you know.
You could argue it makes good TV.
Yeah,
it makes for a dramatic episode.
Yeah,
I'm personally not a fan of that. But
I mean, to me, there's my favorite extra biblical is the one that's still capturing like what
essence of
that really could have happened with Peter and Matthew, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't take a far stretch of the imagination to imagine that actually happening.
But I do like the fact that, now the Thomas scene becomes more dramatic.
Oh, yeah?
You know,
okay. All right.
I do because we're getting to know the characters more and more. And a lot of the disciples, we don't have a lot of content about them.
Oh, for sure.
We don't have many of their stories. Peter is, why is he front and center? Well, one of the reasons we have the most stories about him.
Yeah, I mean,
so you get to know
John for sure.
So, I mean, to me, it makes sense so we can get to know the rest of the disciples more. And so they're imagining their backstories. And so I think that is one of the things that we like about The Chosen, because you can identify with one of the disciples.
I mean, that's something that they've done well, is that you see the humanness of each disciple, and you're like, I mean, I've felt that before, you know.
But the Bible nerd guy in me is like,
Bible guy in me is like, that's how.
But I do. But they always do a good job, though. I feel like of bringing you into the story, and in that scene in particular, they are showing you this controversy between Yeshua and the religious leaders, and they're really beginning to show you the tensions in that whole episode at the end.
Which when we talked about this a little bit just a second ago, but a little bit even before, is that this scene with the healing and with the Pharisees was in Jerusalem, but and there's the pool of Siloam involved and stuff like that. So they're trying to take liberties to try to tell some of these stories.
Right.
But one thing, like you said, we're seeing tension with Rome, and we're seeing tension with the Jewish leaders. Yeah. And so that's important to see.
Yeah. And it's beginning to boil.
And when you're seeing Jesus call out the Pharisees in a very specific way.
Woe to you, right?
In a very biblical way, you could argue.
Yeah.
I think that part is great.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was tough for me, seeing the bucket. Yeah. Because that healing is the man born blind. he ends up going and washing in the pool of Siloam.
Right.
And we've discovered the pool of Siloam, but it's in Jerusalem, and they're in Capernaum in this scene. So
you were excited to see
I
that.
was. That's why on the preview, the trailer, I'm like,
you're like, ah! Yeah.
But then, so I have to admit, I was a little disappointed in that.
Yep.
But again, they've got a tough job.
Very tough.
Very tough.
One going back to the very, very beginning, if you watch the episode, you do get to see, this isn't biblical, you do get to see this really cool fly through of the set.
Yeah.
And that was really neat to see. They have like almost like drone footage going through. That was cool. So like the amount of work they're putting into this is unfathomable.
Right.
So that was incredible to see. That 5-minute clip or whatever that was really cool. That was really cool. So anyway,
well,
we enjoyed it.
Yeah, we enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to a deeper dive once they release the videos of each episode, and we'll break those down eventually. So looking forward to really taking and also just progressing. I feel like it's 2 weeks and we've got 3 more episodes. Yep. It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in.
But you're gonna enjoy it if you haven't already. So, but I guess you have, because otherwise you're totally
if not,
spoiled at this point.
But make sure you make sure you subscribe, share with your friends, click the notification bell so that you know when we're doing these live streams and when we're gonna have the more deep reactions come out here in a few months.
All right, blessings.
See you guys later.